The sun begins to set over a quiet suburban neighborhood. Streetlights flicker to life, casting long shadows over the neatly manicured lawns. Malik Carter, a 17-year-old black teen, strolls home from a tutoring session, his backpack full of school books slung over one shoulder. He's texting his mom, telling her he's almost home, a simple moment that carries no hint of the chaos about to unfold. As Malik walks, the familiar rumble of a police cruiser approaches. He glances up, seeing the car slow down as it passes him. Without warning, the car makes a sharp U-turn and pulls up beside him, blocking his path. The officer behind the wheel, Officer Jake Whitman, a 40-something white cop, steps out of the car, his hand hovering over his gun belt. He narrows his eyes, scanning Malik from head to toe. There's no reason for concern, no sign of trouble, yet Whitman looks at Malik as if he's already guilty of something. Officer Whitman, sternly, "Hey you, hands where I can see 'em." Malik stops, confused and startled by the officer's tone. He raises his hand slightly, not fully understanding what's going on. Malik, calmly, "Excuse me?" Officer Whitman, yelling, "I said hands up." Malik's confusion grows, but he complies, raising his hands higher. Officer Whitman moves toward him with aggression, eyeing Malik's backpack suspiciously. Officer Whitman, "What's in the bag?" Malik, keeping his voice steady, "My school books. I'm walking home from tutoring." The officer doesn't seem to care. He moves quickly, grabbing Malik's backpack with force and yanking it off his shoulder. Officer Whitman, scoffing, "Yeah, right. Looks like you just robbed someone." Malik's frustration builds, his patience waning as the officer makes assumptions based solely on his appearance. He watches the cop rummage through his bag, then looks up at him with disbelief. Malik, shaking his head, "What? I live right down the street. What are you doing?" Officer Whitman, dismissively, "Sure you do. Turn around, hands behind your back." Malik's jaw tightens. He knows his rights, but his frustration is bubbling over. He has done nothing wrong, yet here he is, being treated like a criminal for no reason at all. As the officer's grip tightens, the sound of the neighborhood's quietness seems to grow louder. This moment, this interaction, feels wrong on every level. And as Malik's hands are forced behind his back, the growing sense of injustice is palpable. Officer Whitman's hands are cold and rough as he grabs Malik's arm, twisting it behind his back. Malik winces but refuses to let his anger show. He knows that reacting aggressively could make things worse, but the situation is escalating faster than he can process. Malik, struggling, voice shaking slightly, "I didn't do anything." Malik's words are lost in the officer's irritation. Whitman doesn't even glance at him, pushing his shoulder down to force him into a more uncomfortable position. Officer Whitman, gritting his teeth, "Tell it to the judge." Malik's chest tightens, his breath coming faster, not from fear, but from frustration. He's been through this before, not personally, but as a witness to the treatment of others who look like him. He knows the routine. He knows that no one is listening, no one cares. His skin, his age, and his hoodie are all the reasons he's being treated like this. A few neighbors peek through their windows, witnessing the injustice unfold. One black woman, standing across the street, pulls out her phone, her camera focused on the scene. She's seen it too many times before, the aggressive policing, the racial profiling, and this time she's determined to capture it. "Neighbor," calling out from a distance, "He didn't do anything. That's the mayor's kid." The comment carries on the wind, but Whitman doesn't care. He sneers and shakes his head, clearly dismissive of any attempt at interruption. Officer Whitman, mocking, chuckling, "Yeah, sure. And I'm the president." His words sting, more because of the cold indifference than the actual statement. Whitman doesn't even bother to respond to the woman's claim, as though it doesn't matter. He isn't concerned about whether Malik is innocent. To him, Malik is just another black boy on the street, an easy target. Malik, struggling against the officer's grip, feels the air rush out of his lungs as he's shoved forward. He's thrown roughly into the back of the police car, the door slamming shut with a finality that echoes through the quiet suburban neighborhood. He barely has time to adjust himself before the engine roars to life. The car smells like antiseptic, cold and sterile. But it's not the smell of the car that suffocates Malik. It's the realization that he's been tossed into this situation purely because of his skin color. He hasn't done anything wrong, but somehow he is being made to feel like a criminal. As the car pulls away from the curb, Malik watches the neighborhood fade behind him. The calm, peaceful world he's always known now feels distant, almost unreachable. He clutches his hands together to keep them steady, trying to maintain some semblance of control. His heart beats heavily in his chest, not from fear, but from the raw, simmering anger that begins to build inside him. Meanwhile, the black woman across the street, still recording on her phone, watches as the police car disappears around the corner. She knows that this might be the only way to hold Officer Whitman accountable for his actions, by giving the world evidence of what's happening. The cold, sterile environment of the police station feels suffocating. Officer Whitman watches Malik, now seated in a holding cell, still confident, still defiant. Whitman leans against the desk, half smirking, thinking this is just another troublemaker he can deal with. Officer Whitman, smirking. "Hope you like county jail, kid." Malik's gaze is steady. He doesn't flinch even though he's been wronged, even though the adrenaline in his body is pounding in his ears. He's learned over the years to keep his calm when people want him to be scared. But this situation is beyond wrong. "Malik," with a quiet defiance, "you have no idea what you just did." Whitman's smirk grows as he continues his paperwork, ignoring Malik's words. He doesn't understand what Malik's saying. He's too caught up in his own sense of superiority to see the bigger picture. Officer Whitman, snorting, dismissive. "Yeah, whatever." The room is filled with the sounds of mundane police chatter and the constant hum of fluorescent lights overhead. But then, suddenly, the loud, jarring ring of the station phone shatters the rhythm. It's a harsh, shrill sound that causes everyone in the room to pause for a split second. The young rookie cop sitting near the phone quickly reaches out and picks up the receiver. But the moment his hand wraps around the receiver, his face drains of color, and a wave of unease ripples across his body. Rookie cop, whispering, voice shaky. Sir? You might want to take this call." Whitman looks up, annoyed, rolling his eyes. It's obvious he's tired of the distractions, and he thinks it's just another trivial call. Officer Whitman, gruffly, "Who is it?" The rookie cop hesitates, glancing at Whitman before speaking, his voice barely above a whisper. Rookie cop, nervously, "The mayor." Whitman freezes. His demeanor shifts immediately. The cocky, dismissive smirk vanishes, replaced by an almost desperate sense of urgency. His heart skips a beat, and his eyes widen. The mayor? What does the mayor want with him? Officer Whitman, hastily, trying to regain composure. Mayor Carter, sir, good evening." But there's no pleasantries in the voice that comes through the receiver. Instead, a booming, furious voice responds, shaking the walls of the otherwise quiet station. Mayor Carter, over the phone, furious. "Did you just arrest my son?" Whitman's breath catches in his throat. The voice on the other end of the line is unmistakable. Mayor Carter, one of the most respected and powerful figures in the city, is seething with anger. The words hit Whitman like a freight train, and he stumbles, his hand shaking as he tries to steady the phone. Officer Whitman, voice faltering, trying to explain. Wait, sir, I didn't know. It's just, he was..." Mayor Carter, cutting him off, voice thundering. "I don't care what you thought. He's my son. You don't have the right to treat him like this. You will fix this now, or I'll make sure you never work another day in law enforcement again." The sound of Mayor Carter's fury echoes in Whitman's ears. He's no longer the one in control. His mind races, trying to think of any excuse to explain his actions, but nothing seems right anymore. He realizes he's gone too far. The rookie cop, who was already anxious, watches the entire exchange, eyes wide with fear. Whitman's face pales, his hand gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles turn white. He opens his mouth to respond but can't find any words. Mayor Carter, calm but lethal. You have no idea who you're messing with. I'll be at the station in 20 minutes to speak with you personally. I expect my son to be released immediately. Do you understand me? Whitman, his mouth dry, nods rapidly, trying to salvage the situation. Officer Whitman, stammering. Yes, sir, I understand. It won't happen again. As soon as the mayor hangs up, Whitman pulls the phone away from his ear, staring at it for a long moment, processing the reality of what just happened. His palms sweat as his mind races. His arrogance, his decision to treat Malik like any other troublemaker, is about to cost him everything. The rookie cop watches Whitman, his face filled with concern. Whitman slowly puts the phone down, his thoughts scrambled. He knows he messed up. He knows the consequences are going to be severe. Rookie cop, tentatively. Sir? What now? Whitman doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he stands up, his legs unsteady, his mind lost in a whirlwind of panic and regret. He knows he can't undo what he's done, but he also knows there's no going back. He's going to have to face the mayor. He's going to have to face the truth of his own actions. Minutes later, the doors to the police station burst open with a force that sends a ripple through the room. Everyone freezes. Mayor Charles Carter strides in, his expression as hard as stone, his footsteps echoing in the silent station. The tall, imposing figure walks with authority, and every officer in the room instinctively stands at attention. Even the rookie cop, who had witnessed the events unfold, feels a shiver run down his spine. Officer Whitman instantly straightens up, trying to muster some semblance of professionalism, though his face is as pale as a ghost. His heart races, knowing that the mayor's presence means things have escalated far beyond what he had anticipated. Officer Whitman, stammering, nervous. Mr. Mayor, sir, Before he can even finish his sentence, Mayor Carter cuts him off, his voice deep and booming, reverberating through the walls of the station. Mayor Carter, sharply. Where is my son? The rookie cop, who had been silent up to this point, hurriedly steps forward to lead the mayor toward the holding area. His hands tremble as he gestures toward the back. The entire station watches, some officers exchanging awkward glances, unsure of what's about to happen next. As they walk down the hallway, the tension in the air is palpable. Malik, sitting calmly in a chair, looks up as the mayor enters. His arms are crossed, a slight smirk playing on his face, clearly unbothered by the events that have transpired. He's been through much worse than this. Malik, smirking coolly. Took you long enough, Dad? The mayor's gaze softens for just a second before hardening again, his anger still simmering just beneath the surface. Malik's nonchalant attitude only fuels his determination to make sure this never happens again. He knows his son is in good hands, but his instinct is to protect him fiercely from this kind of injustice. Officer Whitman stands frozen, his mind racing, his face drained of all color. He had no idea that the young boy he had wrongfully detained was the son of the city's most powerful man. Officer Whitman, nervously, fumbling. I didn't know. Before he can finish, Mayor Carter's voice booms through the room again, laced with fury and disbelief. Mayor Carter, booming, his voice echoing in the room. Didn't know? You arrested a teenager for walking home? Every word stings, each one landing harder than the last. Officer Whitman feels the weight of his mistake, his hands shaking as the mayor's anger bears down on him. He wants to say something, anything, that will explain his actions, but no words come. His entire reasoning feels flimsy now, knowing the truth. Before he can attempt another explanation, Police Chief rushes in, sweat dripping down his forehead as he quickly moves toward the mayor, hoping to defuse the situation before it goes further. Police chief, sweating, trying to maintain control. Mr. Mayor, I assure you, this will be handled. Mayor Carter, interrupting, voice colder than before. Oh, you better believe it will. The mayor steps toward Officer Whitman, eyes narrowed, his presence overwhelming. He leans in, glaring at the officer who made the mistake of underestimating his son. Mayor Carter, calm but deadly. You think you can just stop my son on the street, arrest him, and treat him like a criminal? Do you have any idea who he is? Do you think this will just blow over? Officer Whitman looks at the floor, unable to meet the mayor's gaze. He can feel the crushing weight of his actions, the fear mounting inside him. He knows the mayor has the power to end his career in an instant. He's done.